Dated February 15th, 2023. In this video, we are going to talk about three important newspaper articles which are going to be very important, very significant for the civil services examination. So without further delay, let's start with the first important newspaper article. Now, this particular newspaper article talks about wholesale inflation. In the previous analysis, we have talked about the retail inflation figures for the January. Now, the wholesale inflation figures for the month of January are being released, or they have been released, right? So these figures are very important for us. We will understand these figures, and then we will also talk about what exactly is this wholesale inflation. Now, this particular newspaper article is important for the GS paper 3, that is Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development and employment. So this particular month saw an inflation, the month of January saw the inflation of 4.73%, right? And this is a jump, or this is a reduction from the 4.95% figures of the December month, and this has been due to a slight decline in the manufactured products price rise and fuel and power inflation, even as the pace of inflation in the food and primary articles hardened sequentially. So the inflation on the food and primary articles has increased, but at the same time there has been a decrease in the manufactured products price, right? And this has led to a reduction in the wholesale inflation figures for this particular month. Now, January marks the 8th successive month of the sequential moderation in the wholesale inflation, since it peaked at 16.63% in the May 2022. Now, this has reduced to what? 4.7% in the month of January 2023. Now, it has helped in no small measure by base effects, as January 2022 had recorded a 13 point in the wholesale prices. So these are the particular figures of the wholesale inflation. Let's now talk about what exactly is this wholesale inflation, and in particular what exactly is this inflation. Inflation is the increase in the general price level. Whenever the prices of the commodities are going to increase, that means it is inflation, right? Now, inflation leads to what? It leads to decrease in the purchasing power of the consumers, right? Now, in this case, we are seeing the wholesale price inflation. So we'll talk about two kinds of inflation. Now, there are two kinds of inflation on the basis of the indexes, right? On the basis of indexes, there are two kinds of inflation we generally talk about. We talk about retail inflation, which is CPI, that is consumer price that comes under consumer price index. Then we have the wholesale inflation, which comes under the WPI, that is wholesale price index, right? Now, basically, this particular inflation, that is wholesale price inflation, is the inflation which is measured at the wholesale level, right? So this is the inflation we are generally talking about in this particular newspaper article. We have talked about the figures regarding it. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. There is nothing more important in this newspaper article. Let's now head to the next important newspaper article. Now, this particular newspaper article is very important for us, for the geography section, right? Now, it talks about the lithium reserves which have been figured out, or which have been discovered in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, these kinds of articles are important for the GS paper 1, that is geography. We'll talk about what is lithium, what is its significance, what are its application, and at the same time, what is the geostrategic significance of discovering the lithium reserves in Jammu and Kashmir, right? So news of discovery of 5.9 million tons inferred resources of lithium in the Salal Haimana area of Riyaisi district, Jammu and Kashmir, by the Geological Survey of India has been received as a game changer in India's impending transition to the green economy. Why it is being seen as an impending transition or a game changer? It is being seen as a game changer because lithium is used in making the lithium ion batteries. Now, lithium ion batteries are very important for all of the purposes, and in particular regarding the electric cars. If you are going towards the green economy, you need lithium, and that is why this 5.9 million tons inferred resource of lithium is very significant. Now, we are saying here the inferred resources. Why we are talking about inferred? Because the exploration is in the preliminary stage. We haven't figured out how much or what is the exact amount of lithium present in this particular mine or this particular area of the Riyaisi district, right? So this particular Riyaisi district falls in the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory over here, which is basically close to the Pakistan area. Now the geostrategic significance, we are also going to talk about it, but before that, what exactly is this lithium? Now lithium is a very soft silvery metal. It has lower density of all metals and it reacts vigorously with water. Now the Greenbushes mine in Western Australia is the largest hard rock lithium mine in the world, and Australia is the global leader of lithium production. Now lithium is primarily extracted from the brine pools, salar in Chile, and rock minerals such as spodumene in Australia. If we talk about the reserves of the lithium, then they are basically the highest in the country of Chile. Then we have the highest reserves in the Australia, and then comes the turn of the Argentina, right? So these three countries constitute the largest reserves of the lithium in the world, right? And these particular three countries, that is the Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile, account for 70% of the global lithium export. And and there's another important matter, another important element which is important for us in the production of the cars, that electric cars, right? It is cobalt. Now Congo alone meets 80% of the global cobalt need, and Germany and Austria are emerging as the battery manufacturing hub of the world. Then China and Japan are major producers of lithium ion batteries. Now lithium is its raw material for the production of the lithium ion batteries, and China and Japan have captured all of the market, or they are the major producers of the lithium ion batteries, right? Now China controls 80% of the rare earth exports and has huge stake in the lithium mines of Latin America. They have highly invested in Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile, and that is why they control 80% of the rare earth metals, or in particular the lithium ion mines of the Latin America. As well as in the country of Congo, they also control the cobalt manufacturing, or the production of the raw material. Whatever they extract, it is done through the China. Now this is the significance, or the geostrategic significance of the lithium. Now let's talk about the applications of the lithium. So lithium is used for basically manufacturing the batteries. Lithium is widely used in batteries due to its high electrochemical potential and low weight. It is also used in glass and ceramics, aerospace, pharmaceuticals, and lubricants as well. So this is the significance of, or these are the applications of the lithium. Let's now talk about the significance of this particular discovery in the state of Jammu and Kashmir in the Riyaisi district. Now, World Bank studies suggest that demand for the critical metals such as lithium and cobalt is expected to rise by nearly 500%. Now, all of the 80% of the extraction of the lithium is controlled by the Chinese. So this leads to a big problem for us. And if we can reduce the reduction or we can reduce the dependence on all of the extracted minerals from the China or by the Chinese, then we are basically becoming less and less dependent on the Chinese. So if the perceived size of the mineral reserves in Jammu Kashmir is borne out by further exploration, India could jump ahead of China vis-a-vis its lithium stockpile. This is the significance of this particular discovery of these reserves. Now Jammu and Kashmir reserves will also help advance in India's government ambitious plan of 30% EV penetration in the private cars and 70% for commercial vehicles and 80% for 2 and 3 wheelers by the 2030 for the automobile industry. And they will strengthen India's national mission on transformative mobility and battery storage as well, right? Now that we have talked about the significance of this particular discovery, let's talk about the geostrategic concerns as well, because anything comes with the geostrategic concern when it is there in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, right? So a high level of dependence on China for lithium and other crucial metals and their derivatives are also perceived to be the sources of energy security risk. So China currently controls 77% or around 80% of the global lithium ion battery manufacturing capacity and is home to 6 of the world's 10 manufacturing companies, and as a result EU, US, and Canada and India are looking for various alternatives in this regard, and the alternative has been put forward by the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the new discovery has more geostrategic implication considering the geopolitical sensitivity of its wider location. Now, although Riaisi is in the relatively more stable Jammu region, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir has been the site of historical cross-border tensions between India and Pakistan. For example, domestic insurgency is there, terrorism is there. This means that it will be very hard to extract the lithium from that particular region. And if the local populace isn't meaningfully engaged in the impending lithium extraction project, the resulting tension could introduce new frontiers of socio-environmental conflict as well. Now, with geostrategic concerns, there are some environmental concerns as well. So basically, this particular lithium ion will be extracted by the open pit mining, but at the same time, you need to understand that these have open pit mining has some of the degrading effects on the environment as well. For example, depleting and contaminating waterways is a big problem. Groundwater threats to the groundwater as well as there's biodiversity, and there is a release of considerable air pollution. So these are some of the environmental effects as well. And apart from it, there is another risk. So now the Himalayas are young fold mountains, and a situation has occurred in the Joshimath in the recent past, right? There is sinking of the land, and incidents of the land sinking has been also been reported from a village in Doda district in Chenab Valley, which extend to some parts of the Riaisi. And this poses a big problem. And in the densely populated context of India, the socio-environmental effects of the mining are likely to be far worse than they have been in Australia, and likely comparable to the lithium extraction in the South America, right? So these are some of the environmental concerns regarding. So what safeguard do we have regarding the mining sector? So basically we have at this particular point of time Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act of 1957, which has been amended in the 2015, right? And it seeks to develop it seeks to establish the District Mineral Foundation. Now, District Mineral Foundation is a non-profit statutory trust for every Indian district affected by the mining related operation that should work for the interest and benefits of the persons and areas affected by the mining related operation. Now, in practice, DMFs have become sites of centralized bureaucratic control without meaningful public participation on accountability. Now, the lack of accountability from the DMFs, that is District Mineral Foundation, has led to some of the problems regarding this particular sector, right? So these are some of the safeguards which have basically not been very fruitful. So India needs to formulate new policies regarding it, and there are challenges to the policy makers regarding it as well, right? So what are the conclusions we draw from this particular newspaper article? So the first conclusion we draw is that the geostrategic importance of lithium exploration and extraction makes it even more important than the exploration and extraction of resources should be done in the public, and it should be done in the public interest, and it must preempt any serious environment threat, right? And apart from it, India should not reduce the luxury consumption, and more focus needs to be regarding the public transport, so that the transition to the electric vehicles may be very smooth, right? So these are the conclusions which we draw from this particular newspaper article. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. Let's now head to the next important newspaper article. Now, this particular newspaper article talks about the relationship between China and Iran. Why is it important for us? It is important for us for the GS paper 2. That is, effect of policies and politics of developing countries on India's interest. Right? So, Chinese President Xi Jinping on Tuesday pledged unwavering support to visiting Iranian President, that is Ibrahim Raisi, in talks in Beijing, with both countries vowing to step up trade ties despite the threat of the American sanctions. Right? So, American sanctions are there on the Iran, and whichever the country is going to do the trade with the Iranians, they are going to face the brunt of the American sanctions. Now, China does not care about that. China said that we will do the trade with the Iranians, right? So now Mr. Xi also added that China would support talks for the early resolution of the Iranian nuclear issue and implementation of the 2015 nuclear deal, which Beijing has backed while criticizing Washington for its withdrawal from the agreement, and Mr. Xi also added that China would support talks for an early resolution of the Iranian nuclear issue and implementation. Sorry, I'm repeating it. Now, this particular thing, or these particular kind of commitments lead to what? Lead to some kind of instability in this particular regard, because then China and the US are going to fight against themselves back and forth, and this will lead to some kind of instability in the global trade. And we want stability in the government, in the world. We want stability in the trade. Now, one of the key issues on the agenda which has been put forth by the Iran is that of 25-year cooperation agreement which was signed in 2021. Now, this particular agreement has not been implemented at this particular point of time. So Iran wants that the China should fulfill its commitment of $400 billion investment in the Iran, right? So basically they want the investments, and this kind of gets tricky between the relations. Now, China is going forward with the relations with the Iran. It is very, very clear. Now, what kind of geopolitical concerns it will raise, we will understand in the future, right? We do not know what kind of geopolitical concerns are going to be there. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article, and this is it for the day. Thank you from my side. Do like and share the video and subscribe to this channel. Have a good day. Bye.